Yep,
than it
so,
is in the
so go
middle.
ahead.
So
Hi, Dad. Thanks for helping me do this. So with the farm you guys had, did you personally own it, or was it someone else's that you tended to?
Yeah, our family owned 10 acres and we farmed anywhere between 150 and 300 other acres.
So was the labor done specifically by each member of the family? Was there different tasks split up, or was it just an all-together effort?
I was the oldest of three boys, and as we got into our early teens, we helped more and more. Primarily my dad, but my mom did a ton of stuff around the farm. So everybody pitched in.
Was the farm more crop-oriented? Was it more livestock-oriented?
It was basically a livestock setup with some of the adjacent fields used to grow corn for silage and grass for hay.
What livestock did you guys raise?
Primarily beef cattle. We had the largest herd of Texas Longhorns east of the Mississippi at one point. We also had some pork or pigs, sheep, goats, chickens, of course.
What was the machinery that you guys used to help move anything along, or did you have any at all?
Yep, tractor was the big one. We had a big John Deere. We had baling, disc mower, the tedder, which is the spinning thing to do all the hay making. And then we borrowed some of the corn planting machinery if we needed to do that.
What kind of food did you guys have in the house, and how was that necessarily prepared?
Well, we had a 5-acre garden that we did pretty much all the vegetables, and that was a lot of the work the kids did as we were growing up, tending to that garden. And then, of course, the meat from the livestock that we raised.
Were there any conveniences that you had in the home, or anything you guys didn't have?
We basically had everything that we have today. My grandparents did have an outhouse, a hand well pump in the kitchen. When I was growing up, I remember those things pretty vividly.
What was the relationship like with the extended family?
This was my mom's side of the family in Indiana. We all lived within the same county. We saw them about once every 2 weeks, so we weren't like right next door to each other, and they were not part of the farming kind of setup, so they didn't help a lot.
What was the relationship like then with the neighbors that were around?
Yep, a lot of good neighbors, even though our closest neighbor was about a half mile down the road. We would see them quite frequently. We would help out where necessary. We would watch out for each other. I actually had my first outside of the house job with one of my neighbors helping them farm.
Now, with school, did the farming end up affecting any of that, or was it still pretty consistent?
No, my grandparents were in the school system, and school was a very important thing. We did not have any harvest constraints because, again, we were livestock based, so it wasn't like we had to take time out to do the harvest in the fall.
Did that necessarily affect any church life going on?
We didn't do a whole lot of church, but that wasn't related to the farming situation.
Gotcha. Did you guys have modern transportation, cars, vehicles?
Yep, we had cars. I did a lot of bicycling and a lot of walking. It was uphill both ways to school, the whole 9 yards.
Did you guys celebrate holidays normally?
Yeah, all of the holidays, and they were typically family get-togethers. We'd grill out, have steaks or whatever, and just enjoy each other's times.
How did you guys end up handling sickness? Did that mean that more of the chores got passed on to one of the other siblings while the other one recuperated, or?
Typically we kind of sucked it up and just kept working unless you were, I remember one time having the chicken pox, and that didn't stop me from going out and feeding the chickens.
Right. Was there any special event that you remember that happened on the farm?
I think your first calf that you raise. I remember a time my dad fell in the outhouse, fell through the floor of the outhouse. I remember one time bringing home the first goat and it crapping in my dad's boot in the truck as he was holding it. And then, of course, the first time you actually have to kill an animal for meat. That's a pretty significant milestone in any person's life.
Now, comparing the farming lifestyle that you had versus how things are run in the modern day, do you think that one method is better than the other? Do you think that they're equal?
I think, of course, with improvements in technology, farmers today can grow a lot more crops. So it is better in the sense of what it's doing and how they produce it, and maybe it's more economical. But I think the work ethic's lost. I think that is the one thing that's really missing from the stuff that we had to do as opposed to what they do today.
Yeah. So thank you so much for helping me out with this, and
Glad to help.
awesome, thank you.